Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about 5 plants that used to be really trendy but aren't anymore, and why not. One thing that happens quite consistently with the houseplant hobby is trends come and go. I mean, you see this with every hobby, let's be honest. But I've only been in the houseplant hobby for 2 to 3 years, maybe 3 years at this point. And the rise and fall that I have witnessed of plants is so quick, so fast, and of course it's due to social media, but I thought it would be fun to kind of dive into that, see what I can find was really popular according to the internet, because I wasn't around in the hobby 5 years ago. But let's see what plants were really big recently and then just died off. They're not around anymore, okay? Okay, I got this information from the internet. Like I said, I wasn't in the hobby during this time. So you might not agree with some of these plants. You might be surprised that some of these plants are even on here. I was kind of surprised, but this is just what I found. And yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, plant number 1, the Monstera deliciosa. I know, you guys are screaming at me. You're like, what are you talking about, Leah? That plant is still super trendy today. But hear me out. It's not as big as it once was. You will more often see someone who is showboating their variegated Monstera rather than their plain green one. And I even put this on my TikTok. I made a video about plants that I don't really like anymore. And I included the classic green Monstera deliciosa because there's just better options, right? Like I have Monstera Thai Constellation, Monstera Albo is somewhere up here. Over here, another Monstera Albo. Monstera Mint is on this top shelf. Like I have so many other versions of the Monstera deliciosa that it's like I don't really need the plain green. I do have the green, but it's actually my brother's and it's in the process of rehabbing because he left it in my tent and asked me to care for it and I accidentally killed it. But we're not talking about that right now, are we? I think it's important to note that this plant is still popular. Like most plant people probably have this in their homes. It's just not as trendy. It's not a must-have plant anymore. You don't see everyone posting plants that you have to buy in their monthly favorites video. It's pretty rare in my experience to see someone have a green Monstera deliciosa in their monthly favorites or yearly favorites. It's just kind of stepped into the background, and it's not a bad thing. It's still around. It's such a timeless classic plant. We even talked about how it was trending in my 80s plant trends video. If you haven't seen that, one of these corners has a card, I'm sure, that you can click and go watch that if you're interested. But yeah, Monstera deliciosa, like I said, still popular. It's just not at the forefront anymore. Plant number 2 is the fiddle leaf fig. And I don't think you're going to argue with me on this one. I could be wrong, but this was everywhere. When I first joined, this was a dream plant of mine. It was on my wish list. And a creator I think of in particular when I think of this plant, she's not even a planty creator, is Whitney Simmons. She had some beautiful big luscious fiddle leaf figs in her home and they looked so good with the aesthetic of her home. I don't know if she still has them. I haven't seen them. Just goes to show, it's just an example of like a plant that was really trendy. Influencers had it. It was in all the fashion magazines. It's beautiful, and so it became this huge thing, a must-have plant. And of course, because it's in this video, we know that that has died down. It's not a must-have anymore, and that's because of the care. This is a high maintenance plant. If you can figure it out, it's a beautiful plant. I had a little bambino version of it, like a dwarf fiddle leaf fig. I ended up selling it because it was dropping leaves, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. It needs a new home. It needs to go somewhere else. So I got rid of mine, but if you can figure out the care, man, I am jealous. It is such a stunning plant. There's a plant shop that has huge ones near me that I just like am in awe of. How are they taking care of those? But due to the high maintenance care, they're not as popular anymore. You don't see as many people saying like I said with the Monstera deliciosa, you have to go out and get this plant. Not a plant for beginners, and even like plant experts that I've seen have had a hard time with it. So that's why Fiddle Leaf Fig is on this list. Was huge, not so much anymore. Also, from what I found, people have been trading their Fiddle Leaf Fig for a much more manageable tree-like plant like the rubber plant, which I love. I think they're so pretty. I don't have any, but they seem much more resilient and like they can thrive in an abundance of environments versus just one with highlight and high humidity. So if you don't have one, that's a great one to get your hands on if you love the look for the Fiddle Leaf Fig, but just can't do the care. Next is the Pink Princess Philodendron. And when I saw this on the list, I absolutely agree. When I first got into the plant hobby, one of my very first plants that I put on my wish list, and I remember telling my brother, like, it was one of the first plants that I ever saw that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have this because of the pink. Are you kidding me? There's so much pink. It's beautiful. I had never heard of a pink plant before, let alone a pink variegated philodendron. Like, my doors had been opened and it was on my wish list for a long time, but I was waiting to find a really good variegated specimen of it, because you can get some that are just lightly variegated and then there's some that are very highly variegated. So I was patient and I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And as the plant got more and more popular, it got more and more oversaturated. And what I mean by that is overproduction of the plant led to less impressive variegation. So when you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or your local plant shops, they'll have it, which was such a rare thing. They used to not have the Pink Princess Philodendron in store. They'll have it now, but chances of finding one with a lot of pink, a lot of that rich pink color, are slim because it's mass produced now. And a plant that has potentially taken its place is the Florida Beauty, Philodendron Florida Beauty. I have seen people struggle with it reverting and trying to maintain the variegation, but yeah, I ended up never owning a pink princess, even though it was like #1 on my wish list. I just never found one that was as pink as I wanted. You know who does have really amazing pink princess philodendrons in their collection is Plants by Melissa. She has multiple of this like stunning, deep, rich pink princess philodendron. If you haven't seen them, go ahead and check out her channel for sure. And I'll link it down below in case you happen to be here and you've never heard of her. But she has amazing ones. And if I could find one that is like hers, I would love to own one. But finding one like that isn't super expensive is difficult. Therefore, this plant has made it into this video. Plant number 4 is the string of pearls. And you can probably, if you're familiar with the plant community at all, or plants in general, you're probably able to guess why this one is no longer popular. But first I want to talk about, of course, like when it was super popular. And this is a plant that was popular when I first got into the hobby as well. I saw this everywhere, the string of pearls. It's so cool, so cute, so fun. And when you have a nice big full one just cascading down the shelf, it's glorious. It's absolutely amazing. So of course it was trendy, of course it was big, but as more and more people got them, they realized the care is kind of difficult. Personally, not to brag, but I have kept mine alive ever since I first bought it. But I bought it knowing that people were having a hard time with it, so I did a bunch of research before I got that plant to make sure I didn't kill it. So for someone who is more new to plants and doing a lot more experimentation with plants, the string of pearls was an exciting find, but a difficult plant to keep alive. It's really prone to root rot, it has really finicky watering needs, and it needs a lot of light, making it a difficult plant. I did see a switch to people leaning more towards string of hearts plants, but even the string of hearts I don't see around that much anymore. I think it is also one that you could say has kind of died down. It used to be a must-have, isn't really a must-have anymore, but we're just sticking to the string of pearls as like bullet point. Plant number 5 is the Alocasia poly. And this plant became super popular because of its really cool appearance, really exotic, bold leaves. They make a statement. They can get quite big as well. And when I remember when I first saw one, I was like, oh my gosh, what is that plant? But I mean, I didn't know anything about plants. I was a certified, a self-proclaimed plant killer back in the day. And so I did not get it. But now if you go, they're still being sold in Home Depot and Lowe's and other like big box stores. I just say those because those are the ones near me. But every time I have looked at one in a store, without fail, it has pests on it. It has spider mites. Every single time, and I'm not exaggerating, and I don't look at them every single time, so maybe there's some times that they were like perfectly healthy and I missed, but this seem, I've never owned one, so I could be wrong, and if I am, correct me. It seems really prone to pests. Like, if they can't even keep it pest free in the store, I don't want to bring spider mites home, and it's bad like every time. I'm not kidding, every single time. So that is one of my guesses as to why it's not super trendy anymore. Not a must have. I see people talk about the variegated varieties, like the pink poly variegated looks so cute. And I think those have kind of taken over as the more trendy version. I don't know how prone to pests those ones are, or the care. The care may be quite simple, or it could be difficult. I have no idea. But the plain, like classic poly alocasia, it's just not, it's not at the forefront anymore. Nobody's recommending you go get one of those. And if they are, then tell me I'm wrong. So just to recap, we talked about, I'm looking at my notes here, Monstera deliciosa, the fiddle leaf fig, pink princess philodendron, string of pearls, and the alocasia poly. You'll have to let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Did I get my facts completely wrong? Did you see something else that was super trendy that isn't anymore, that I didn't talk about, that I should have talked about? Let me know. And I really, really want to emphasize, this is just for fun. The most important thing is that you find plants that you love. Don't pay attention to the trends. I use trends as more so a way to like learn about decades that I wasn't a part of. So like my 80s plant trends video, it's just interesting to see what people were interested in. And I know it does not speak for every single person that owned plants. It's possible that you've been in the hobby for 10 years and you never owned a single one of these and you never saw anyone that did. So it's just for fun. It's just an explorative video. And yeah, just find plants you love and can care for and can thrive in your environment. And if you get sick of them one day, get rid of it. It's okay. We won't judge you here. This is a safe place. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Share this video with a friend. And thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.